Hello, welcome to another Cook With Me Gluten-Free. I'm Robin. Thanks so much for joining me. If this is your first time here, welcome. Today I am going to be making gluten-free cornbread dressing from scratch. A couple of weeks ago, I tried the Aldi stuffing mix. It was just okay. It would pass, I think, for a Tuesday night dinner. But Thanksgiving is next week, and I need to make the dressing for everyone, and I need it to taste like regular cornbread dressing. So instead of using the Aldi stuffing mix as a base, I'd mentioned that it might make a good base for cornbread dressing. I decided to try the Trader Joe's. That's their gluten-free stuffing mix. Um, this is a little bit more robust. I was looking at the ingredients and it appears to maybe have a better flavor than the Aldi version. It's also a bigger box. And since I'm making it for a large crew of people, I thought that was important. Now, I just want to give a disclaimer. Everything is going to be fluid in this recipe. While I have measured some things out, I can't be sure if I'm going to need more of something or less of something. But I'll try to make sure that in the description box below that I type up exactly what we ended with. So let's take a look at what I'm starting with, and then we'll see where we end. This week we have a lot of moving parts. So of course, you know, we're using the Trader Joe's stuffing mix. Now I'm hoping that we are going to just need to use one box. Here's the size. That's pretty big. I did use a mallet and I crushed these down just a little bit because I like finer pieces. And it does come with one packet of mix. So I'll smell that and see what we're going to do poultry seasoning wise. Now, in addition to that, because we are having cornbread dressing, I needed to make cornbread. I also used Trader Joe's gluten-free cornbread mix. I found out when I opened this cornbread mix that it has little bits of corn in it, and it does not state that it has corn. So here are what those dehydrated corn pieces look like. I actually sifted them out and just used the mix itself because I thought it might be weird to have little pieces of corn in the dressing. So if you use this, be prepared to sift it out if you want. If not, you can use just regular cornmeal. Anytime you're making cornbread dressing, the cornbread doesn't need to have a lot of flavor. It's really just there to as a filler. Using Swanson brand chicken broth, that is 32 ounces or 2 cups. You can see it here. I've got 1 whole stick of butter. That's what we're going to use to saute this. This is a large, medium, or a small, large onion, white onion chopped. I have 3 teaspoons. This is 3 teaspoons of poultry seasoning. I am using the McCormick's poultry seasoning, and according to their website, it has no gluten-containing ingredients. That being said, we know that we all have to be careful. It doesn't mean that it could not have been processed in a factory with something that does contain gluten, so always use at your own risk. I have 1 teaspoon of white salt and 1 teaspoon of black pepper here. And then back here, we've got Trader Joe's turkey flavored gravy. Now this says ready to use right out of the box. Just pour and serve. So I've got a saucepan here that we will heat that up because what is dressing without some gravy? So the first thing we're going to do, oh, and of course you can see I already made the cornbread. There it is. It makes one. This is an 8x8 pan. So cornbread comes out beautifully. And I will taste a little bit of this cornbread just so we know what the cornbread actually tastes like in case we just want to make it as a side dish. All right, I'm going to get started melting my butter and sauteing the onions. Butter is melting. I'm going to put our onions in. I did turn the heat down just a little bit. The onions are so important to this cornbread dressing. It's just part of what gives it that flavor. So everything comes together nicely. So I'm going to let these saute, and I will be back once these soften up just a bit. All right, the onions are nice and sauteed. Some folks say they like them to be translucent. I go for soft. Soft usually means translucent. Oh yes, and I did cut a little piece of the cornbread because we'll need to taste that at the end. See what it's giving all by itself. Okay, so with the cornbread, I like to just break it up in the pan, just like this, and then add it to the stuffing or the breadcrumbs that are in the bowl. So again, remember this is very fluid, so I'm going to see exactly how much I'm going to use. I may end up using all of it. I probably will because it is cornbread dressing. Let's get that in there. But we're going to go slow because this is the first time I am making it from the Trader Joe's stuffing mix. All right, let's see what we've got here. So when you're mixing this up, you want to make sure that there aren't any chunks of cornbread. You want it to be nice and fine. And we're definitely going to use all the cornbread. So I'm going to work to chop the rest of this up, and then when I come back, all the cornbread will be in the bowl. Okay, the onions are in, and I added a little bit of the chicken broth to get us started. I have added in so far right about 2 cups. And here's the consistency that I've got now. I've not added in any salt and pepper or poultry seasoning yet. Now remember, we've got this Trader Joe's stuffing mix, and I don't know, I'm going to smell it and see what, yeah, it's definitely got a very sagey flavor to it. I may use some of this. Let's just, we're going to find out. Remember, this is all very fluid. Okay, so we've got 2 cups of broth in. I'm going to add a little more broth because we're still not at, we're fighting the consistency, right? So I'm adding in probably another about 1/2 cup. Now I'm going to add in our salt and pepper. Stir this in. It's really going to depend on what the seasoning mix at Trader Joe's tastes like and whether or not I am going to end up using it. Some people put egg in their dressing. I do not. There's already an egg in the cornbread mix, so that will help with the binding as well. Okay, this is what we're looking like so far. I'm going to add a little bit more broth, and then I will use a little bit of the Trader Joe's seasoning. See what that consistency is. Yeah, it's very herby, sagey. Growing up, before I had to live gluten-free, we used Pepperidge Farm breadcrumbs to make our cornbread dressing. So this is going to be a little different. Now you see I did not use that full packet, just a little bit, because I want to use, this again is 3 teaspoons of poultry seasoning. And because all the ingredients are cooked, I actually do a little taste test. So I'm going to get this mixed up, and I'm going to see where we are after I use about half of this, which would be 1.5 teaspoons of poultry seasoning. I have achieved the consistency that I like, and I could probably add a little more broth, but I think we're good. So I ended up using 3 cups of the Swanson chicken broth. 3 cups. I added another teaspoon of salt, and I did use all of the poultry seasoning. So that was 3 teaspoons of poultry seasoning. Now, because I am going to be freezing this for Thanksgiving next week, I am putting them in little disposable pans that I will pop in the freezer, and I will leave out one pan for us to taste today. So let me load all of these up and prepare them for the oven, and when they come out, I will be back. So let me load all of these up and prepare them for the oven so you can see exactly how much one box of each of these made. What I made yielded 3 of these pans, and I did coat them lightly with cooking spray. So I'm going to pop these in the oven on 350 degrees. When I make a big pan of cornbread dressing, I usually keep it in the oven about 45 minutes, but I assume these are going to cook a bit faster, especially this one. This is the one that we're going to be tasting. It has a little bit less than the ones that I will be freezing for Thanksgiving. So I'm going to get these in the oven, and while I do that, we'll investigate what this gravy is all about. Again, Trader Joe's turkey flavored gravy. It was pretty easy to open. You lift up the sides and squeeze it together. So let's take a look. Oh, wow, it looks really good. It does say to use within 5 days of opening. So I'm going to pour it right on in the pan. You see, that looks really nice. I wonder if I can freeze this too, since I will only be using it to taste. And I'm not adding any seasonings to it. I like to know exactly what it tastes like right out of the pot. So once we get closer to the cornbread dressing coming out of the oven, I will heat the gravy. Our cornbread dressing is out. Here's the smaller one. It is done. It looks delicious. It's the perfect consistency. I can touch it. It's kind of slightly firm to the touch, and it smells amazing. These are good back here. These are the ones that are going to be frozen for Thanksgiving Day. Our gravy is looking good here. So I'm going to go ahead and put some on the plate. Remember, I saved a little piece of the Trader Joe's cornbread so I could give that a taste on its own. And I'm going to take a little bit of this cornbread dressing here on the side. I'm going to take it right from the center. There we go. And I'm going to create two little piles so that I can do one with gravy and then one without. Okay, I'm going to open this up and get a little bit of gravy and swirl that around a little bit. It smells really, really good. Get a little bit of gravy and put it on the side here. All right, Trader Joe's. Let's see what we got. I am ready for some Thanksgiving goodness. You know what? Let's first try this cornbread. You know I love the Krusteaz honey cornbread, so it's going to be hard to beat that, but you know what? Let's find out what this tastes like. Oh, wow. It's super sweet and moist. I don't know. I think that gives the Krusteaz honey cornbread a run for its money. Now remember, if you don't like corn in your cornbread, you won't like that, but wow, that's really sweet. Which means that my cornbread dressing is going to be on the sweet side because this is sweeter than I thought it would be. I'm going to taste it without the gravy first. Let's see. Oh, get on my fork. Here we go. Mmm. Mmm. Oh, that's really good. I'm going to tell you, that seasoning packet that came inside the Trader Joe's stuffing box I only used about 1/4 of that. So that big packet, probably the equivalent of maybe a tablespoon and a half. I did not measure it, but I didn't use all of it. I think if the flavor is good, you definitely could use all of it, and it would reduce the amount of poultry seasoning that you would need to use, but I just love the taste of the poultry seasoning. Okay, let's taste this gravy. I want to make sure I get a nice, healthy bite. Okay. The gravy is good. I think I'll freeze that too. Okay. No, this is all wonderful. The texture, the consistency, I mean, honestly, it's a 10 out of 10. I know I made it, but it's a 10 out of 10. Well, thanks for joining me on another Cook With Me gluten-free. I am going to be filming while I prepare for Thanksgiving. I'm going to make some things in advance and then some things on the day of Thanksgiving, which means that I will be up early. But I want you to have these gluten-free recipes in your arsenal so that you can make some things between now and Christmas, holiday parties and all that. So what you can look forward to, gluten-free pound cake, sour cream pound cake. In addition to the sour cream pound cake, I'll be doing a sweet potato casserole and a broccoli casserole. So look out for those in the coming weeks, and hopefully you have a very happy and healthy Thanksgiving, and I will see you next time. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and comment down below. Happy Thanksgiving.